If there is a character in the series who has suffered from the worst injustices of South Park, that is little Butters. And today, I will show you 4 episodes in which Butters received the worst and most unfair punishments. Like the episode where his honesty almost destroyed his parents' marriage, and as usual, he ended up paying the consequences. Butters' parents' anniversary is coming up, and Butters is excited to go to Bennigan's to celebrate.
Bennigan's? Oh boy, you mean it? Whoopee! At Bennigan's, I'm gonna get the Red Tan baby back ribs!
Calm down there, cowboy. You've still got 4 days.
3 days before their anniversary, Linda decides she wants to find out what gift her husband is going to give her, because she feels like his gifts are always better. So she decides to send Butters to follow him, instead of asking him herself. Of course, that makes a lot of sense.
Butters, maybe you could secretly follow your dad and see what he's getting me.
You mean spy on him? But ain't that kind of like fibbing?
Butters innocently tries to refuse, but Linda manipulates him a bit into feeling like spying on his father is more like playing inspector, and ends up convincing him to do the job.
Dr. Butters is on the case, ma'am.
Throughout the entire journey, Butters writes everything in his notebook and confuses the places his father enters with common places to visit, although it is obvious what is really happening.
Dad's going to see a movie. How nice. White Swallow Bathhouse.
Back with his mom, Butters tells her everything, but the more Linda digs into the spying, the worse things get.
Must have been a real short movie, though, because Dad came out like 10 minutes later. It must have been a side film, too, because he had a bunch of tissue paper with him when he came out. Poor old Dad. Movie really got to him.
Butters, where did Daddy go after the movie?
To the gym.
To the gym.
Yeah, the White Swallow Spa.
Blame the message, not the messenger, Linda. All of Butters' revelations make it clear that his father is exploring with other men, and that's enough to drive his mother crazy and end up in a disturbed state that only has her cleaning and painting.
Must paint. Everything clean. Everything new.
Butters' dad leaves again to try to find an anniversary present, although everyone but Butters knows what he's really up to, and a distraught Linda comes up with the worst possible solution.
Must clean, Butters. Clean. Never be clean. Must kill. The only way? Must kill Butters. Paint.
Of course, the solution to all marital problems is to exterminate the children. How come we didn't think of that before? However, the only one who doesn't realize that he's in danger, or even wants to find out everything that's going on, who even goes to the spa that his father frequents, to tell him that a paintbrush would be the best gift for his mother.
I'm glad I found you. I think I know the perfect anniversary present for Mom. What are you doing with your wiener out there, Dad?
Stephen becomes upset and tells her that they will talk things over at home, and that is when the worst thing that can happen in the Stotch house happens.
No, because I already told Mom and she's fine.
You what?
Linda decides to take Butters for a ride, although her plans are definitely what gives this episode its name, and once again, Butters ends up getting one of the most unfair punishments in the series.
I love a good drive. Is Dad coming too?
No, sweetie. Daddy needs to sit and think.
Linda drives to a lake to drop Butters off at his destination inside the car.
And sometimes mommies do things that seem hurtful to their babies, but it's really for the best.
Come on, Linda. Not even Cartman dared to do that much, and Cartman has dared to do a lot of things. Linda returns home to use a rope and end her suffering, but first she decides to write a note to her husband.
Dear bastard husband. No. Dear lying son of a bitch. No. Dear ass face. Yes, that's it. I will no longer—
Linda!
Stephen arrives and accepts responsibility, while Linda reveals that it is too late.
No! Our son is dead!
Technically, he didn't die of natural causes. We all saw you do it.
Oh, God, what have I done? Oh, Butters!
Stephen, who doesn't seem too affected by what happened, even though the blame is as much his as his wife's, decides that the best thing he can do is save Linda from prison.
Butters is gone. There's nothing we can do about that. But I won't let you go to jail, I promise. Linda, please.
But what they don't know yet is that against all odds, Butters survived and just takes a quiet walk along the river.
Oh, whoopee! Finally! Well, now that the car has come to a stop, it's safe for me to unfasten my seatbelt.
Can someone please tell him that he's safer lost in those woods than in his own house? However, Butters finds a way to try to get back home, mostly so as not to worry his parents, and to get to the anniversary on time. Come on, they don't deserve you. At the Stotch house, Linda and Stephen do what every parent about to go to jail for a horrible crime is supposed to do, and that is lie.
Miss Stotch was driving with her son in the car. A man stopped her, put a gun to her head, and took her son away. When asked who the man was, Miss Stotch replied, "Some Puerto Rican guy."
After clarifying that the fictitious kidnapping was carried out by a Puerto Rican guy with average Puerto Rican height, they finish their statements about the false kidnapping, while their supposedly kidnapped son exhausts a truck driver with his stories about what they will do on his parents' anniversary.
And the nice Bennigan hostess lady will take us to our cozy booth. Then we'll order some mozzarella sticks for appetizers.
The long conversation ends up exhausting the truck driver, who throws himself out of the truck, only to be protected by his strange and poor luck. Is this a miracle or a mistake? Back at the Stotch house, Butters himself tries to contact his parents to tell them he's okay, but the police are in charge of not letting him speak. As always, they are efficient.
Oh, are you Puerto Rican?
No.
We need to keep this line clear. Call back another day. It wasn't the abductor, sorry.
Things only continue to get murky, and after Butters' frustrated call, a married couple show up saying that the same man who kidnapped Butters was the culprit of the crime against their late. The Ramseys clearly share the same lie as them, generating a very uncomfortable moment.
And we realized the man that murdered your son must be the same person that killed our daughter.
Yeah, because we certainly didn't do it.
No.
Butters' disappearance seems to be starting to benefit a lot of other people, except himself, of course. But as expected from the most innocent character in the series, Butters does his best to get to his parents' anniversary dinner on time, because even after everything that's happened, he still believes that his parents are waiting for him for that special night.
I can't wait till Sunday. I'm eating with my family at Bennigan's tomorrow.
You want to go to South Park? You got to go down that rod. Course, I ain't never seen anyone go up that rod. 6 years ago, a group of campers went up there and got lost. Had to eat each other to stay alive.
Well, officially it can't be any worse. And yet Butters decides to take that dangerous path to go to his parents.
Oh, jeez.
Back in South Park, Linda and Steven have dinner with the Ramseys, who strangely make the dinner a non-murderers club, inviting Gary Condit and none other than one of the most innocent non-criminals in the public eye, O.J. Simpson.
OJ's wife was killed by some Puerto Rican guy too.
Competing among themselves over who is the worst person at the table, they end up celebrating the initiation of the new liars, the Stotch couple. In the woods, poor Butters is stalked by someone, or something, and saves himself only by concentrating on the only thing that gives him strength, his song about Bennigans.
Oh, come and eat it, a Bennigan. You love all our shenanigans.
The anniversary day arrives, and the parents of the year, sarcasm, begin to have trouble keeping up their charade.
No, Linda, because you can't now say that the abductor was Costa Rican. You have to learn to keep it straight.
I can't keep it straight when you keep inventing new parts to the story.
The breakup finally happens, and Steven tells Linda that he is covering for her. But Linda reminds him that it all started because of his lies, at which point the discussion about Butters is interrupted, well, by Butters himself.
Happy anniversary!
Not now, Butters.
Even unconsciously, Butters only receives unfair treatment. Not even in a fake death is he saved from this. Linda notices her son's return, and they both seem happy that he's back. Butters asks if he's grounded and they say no, but that he'll have to lie about how he got back home.
Oh, yes, darling, you're going to have to say you don't know how you got home.
Of course, Linda, as if it wasn't enough for him already. Linda and Steven start fighting, and Butters gives them a great lesson about lies, and how these, even if they are called by another name, are still just that. Vile lies.
And you can call a lie whatever you want, but it's still a no good stinking lie. And when you start covering up one lie with another lie, that's when you get into real trouble.
His parents seem to reflect and make the only sane decision of the episode, to tell the truth. In front of the entire neighborhood and the press, Butters' parents decide to tell the whole truth so as not to make their son suffer anymore, who honestly has had enough of them, and as a strange way to expose the supposed support group of non-murderers.
Now we're just happy we won't have to live a life of secrets. For I knew that even though some of you supported us, some others were looking at me and thinking, "You're a liar! You're a liar! You know something that you're not telling us, you slimy scumbag liar!"
The whole truth comes out, and the Stotches finally get ready to go to Bennigans, but not before Stan reminds Butters of everything bad that happened to him in the episode with a single sentence, leaving us with a great lesson about the importance of how sometimes living in ignorance is much better than knowing the truth.
Oh well, when I have a Chipotle blue cheese bacon burger at Bennigan's, I'll forget all about my dad being queer and my mom trying to kill me. I'm gonna be okay. Really? No, I'm lying.
Another episode in which injustices haunt Butters is when he realizes that there are vampires at school and ends up more involved than he expected. The boys are in the computer lab, while Mr. Mackey tries to explain to them how to use some computer commands. And when I say tries, I really mean he completely fails at it.
Okay, now right-click on menu item equate all and type in input Y.
The whole class ignores him for playing Call of Duty, while the poor man can't tell one button from another.
Who just shot me?
Okay, let's see. The right-click is the upper right. But then what the hell is this?
Mr. Mackey leaves confused to look for answers elsewhere, and while all the boys are playing, Butters appears terrified with some news.
Vampires in their school!
To be honest, we've seen zombies, aliens, beings from other dimensions, and Mr. Garrison dressed as Marilyn Monroe in the series, so vampires aren't the craziest thing that's ever happened. Stan ignores him, and Butters runs to Kenny, who completely ignores him.
There's a vampire on the loose. Then Katie Gelser was hanging out with him, and now she's a vampire too!
Kyle tries to be the voice of reason as usual, but eventually, strangely enough, Cartman easily takes charge of the situation.
All right, Butters, will you go document the vampire's movement so we know what their intentions are?
And well, it works. Once again, Butters is manipulated by Cartman, but this time with the sole benefit of getting him off his back, so it's really unfair that they ignore him like that. Butters takes it as a mission and decides to spy on them in the gym while documenting everything with an audio recorder.
12:32 p.m. Vampires meeting in the school gymnasium. Leader appears to be a 5th grader.
The vampires end up being students with fake fangs, a bad mood, black clothes, and a great thirst for Clamato.
God, I think they're gonna drink blood now. They've got some kind of chalice in their...
A mistake in the manipulation of the recorder ends up causing Butters to be discovered and flee in terror from the gym.
Get back! You stay back! Ah, ah. The body of Christ compels you! The body of Christ compels you!
Too late to warn him that they are not real vampires and too innocent to stop believing it. In the school hallway, the pseudo-vampires meet the group of goths, who begin to feel uncomfortable because the vampire children are copying their aesthetics.
But they can't dress like that. That's our style.
Apparently, dressing in black is patented by goths, and they start a discussion between groups, which could easily have ended in a musical in the school hallways, but it didn't happen.
Hey, we're just as dark as you guys, maybe darker.
The vampires end up being much softer than the goths, but it is the beginning of a war that has only just begun. Butters arrives home to tell his parents what happened, but once again, he ends up being surprised by an absurd punishment from Steven.
Our pantry is always kept organized alphabetically. But somebody put the hamburger helper where the Nestle Quick is supposed to go.
Steven, you need to relax. The boy hasn't even hit puberty yet.
What keeps a family together, Butters?
A well-organized pantry.
As incredible as it may seem, Butters' father is more interested in the alphabetical organization of the products than in what his son has to say to him.
You do it right now or you're going to be grounded! You got that?
Once again, it seems that another unjust punishment for Butters prevails over the truth, which ends up making Butters reflect on vampires and his current condition.
I'll bet vampires never get hollered at. Vampires just get to do whatever they want.
Perhaps a hasty conclusion considering he had only been watching them for 20 seconds. However, it seems that it was enough time for him to gather the courage to approach the vampire boys and request to join them.
O creatures of the night, a sick audience to engage with thee in unholy darkness and thus do... And thus do unto your bidding.
More or less, Butters asks them to turn him into a vampire, and they say they'll only think about it if he brings them sodas and Cheetos. Where have I heard of Butters being used like that before? Oh yeah, I thought I had deja vu, but it's just Cartman vu. Meanwhile, in the elementary, vampires' popularity increases to the point that goths are mistaken for them at every opportunity, taking away their own identity.
You guys, I do not want to be grouped in with douchey little vampire kids.
More preppy straight-A students turning into vampires. What the hell is going on?
That night, Butters has his initiation after becoming the vampire boy's errand boy.
You have done well. Are you ready to become one of us, per se?
Butters agrees to become a vampire because he thinks it will free him from the abuse of his father and the rest of the kids at school. So far from a mystical transformation in the middle of the forest, he transforms more like a makeover at the mall.
Whoa.
The last step in his initiation is drinking Clamato, which he hates, and I understand. And so, now the cute Butters is now cute Butters, but with fake fangs. He arrives home, and when he is about to be punished by his father, he decides to ignore him and play by his own rules.
I no longer need to explain anything to you, Father.
Steven tries to punish him again, but Clamato seems to have worked, and given Butters the confidence to not allow himself to be trampled on any longer.
That does it. You are grounded for 2 weeks. You got that?
You can't ground me, for I am neither living nor dead. How can thy ground that which is ungroundable?
Completely immersed in the role, Butters bares his fangs with a sound more like a baby cat than a vampire. The situation regarding the vampire kids is so out of control that it causes the goth kids to be summoned to the principal's office, confusing them again.
Now, kids, I understand that you were very into this vampire thing, but I don't want to see it get out of hand. You kids need to understand that your new little fad is scary to some.
We aren't vampire.
More and more boys are joining the vampire trend, and goths are making an incredibly difficult decision. They wear normal clothes to stop being labeled as vampires.
Well, at least nobody can refer to us as vampire kids now.
But as expected, the labels only change, but they continue to be labeled, and as something they like less.
Yeah, it's over there, by that fat girl, the big-nosed kid, the midget, and the kid with pockmarks on his face.
And the goth kids decide to do something to end the vampire kids' karma for good. Meanwhile, the protagonist of this list doesn't even realize the difference between the groups, only focuses on one thing, being the best vampire he can be. That's how, in some strange way, he ends up in Cartman's room wanting to feed on his blood.
Sorry, Eric, but I am a vampire now, and I can no longer survive on human food. And if someone must die so that I can feed, I choose thee.
As usual, things don't go well for Butters, and of course he fails in his attempt to suck human blood with plastic teeth.
Dude, gross, you got spit all over my neck. Mom, Butters just gave me a hickey.
Butters' Dracula jumps out the window, leaving a confused Cartman and Leon blankly unaware.
Well, Mom, apparently Butters is gay, finds me very attractive, and confused about his sexual identity, puked up all over my floor.
It's amazing to think that out of all the targets you could think of, you would choose Cartman. You punish yourself, Butters. Back with the goth kids, they come up with a plan in which they decide that by exterminating the school's leader and first vampire, Mike Makowski, the rest will disappear.
I mean, what do you do when you want to change vampires back to normal? You get rid of the head vampire.
The goth boys end up kidnapping Mike, aka Vampire, and decide to send him to the most horrible, most miserable place on Earth.
Scottsdale.
Things are not going any better at the Stotch house, but thanks to a call from Mrs. Cartman, they find out what Butters has been doing outside the house.
Butters, this is your father. Explain why you snuck into another boy's bedroom and gave him a hickey.
His next step in rebellion is to climb into his bookcase and continue his vampiric act, even if it means, well, starving himself and refusing to be punished.
Linda, something that we cannot ground.
The Goths' plan fails, and the number of vampire kids continues to increase, so they feel that they did something wrong. It is then that Butters arrives to reveal to them the truth about the transformation into a vampire.
I can take you to the place where kids are being transformed into vampires.
This is how they end up in front of Hot Topic and everything makes sense to them.
Of course. Freaking Hot Topic. That explains everything.
So the Goths decide to burn the whole place down and free Butters from his vampire state, which in his mind had nothing to do with taking off his costume and eating. No, of course not.
What the hell are they doing? They're putting an end to it!
Finally, Butters returns home with his usual look, and everything goes back to normal. And when I say everything goes back to normal, I mean sadly everything.
Well, would you mind telling me why there's rice-a-roni in my coffee?
Uh-oh.
Butters, you are grounded!
I think we can say that in some ways, Butters drives himself towards unfair punishments.
It worked, Linda. Our son is groundable once more.
Well, at least his 12 hours of rebellion proved his bravery by refusing punishment. In episode 3 of the list, Butters is unfairly selected to execute another of Cartman's brilliant plans. All the boys in the class are gathered in Cartman's basement, because he has a revelation to make to them.
What if I were to tell you that the girls have a device which allows them to see into the future?
The conversation becomes heated, and Cartman decides to show them proof of what he says.
Thank you, Cled. I'm afraid it's true. I secretly videotaped the girls on the playground yesterday using my Wellington Bear video camera. I caught the following images on tape. I warn you, these images may be too shocking for young children.
The video shows the girls in the class playing with a paper fortune teller, which is what Cartman believes is a fortune-telling machine.
Believe it! The girls can ask it any question they want and it gives them an answer. Freeze image! Gentlemen, we have to get our hands on that device.
Of persuasion, and perhaps a little youthful innocence on the part of the boys, makes them believe that it is true, and that this device predicts the future, and they must do something to achieve it. This is how they scientifically prepare to know how to use the paper fortune teller and be able to use it when it is snatched away from the girls.
All right, gentlemen, our containment center for the time relic is nearly complete. All that's left for us to do is get the device from the girls and bring it here.
Cartman decides that the only plan that will give them victory is for one of the boys to infiltrate Heidi Turner's sleepover as a new girl in town, but the selected one must fake his death. And guess who is the lucky one?
Your son is down at the Bowery building threatening to kill himself.
What?
Of course it's Butters, otherwise this episode wouldn't be on the list. Butters, with the boys behind him, pretends to be about to jump off a building, while his parents try to convince him to come down.
Come down now, son, and we promise we won't ground you for more than a couple weeks.
What a lie. If Butters jumps and dies, I'm sure Steven would find a way to punish him, even if he's dead.
Okay, it's ready. Step down, Butters.
In one exchange, and I must admit, quite impressive, the boys throw a pig in Butters' place to fake his death. Everyone in the room is shocked, and Linda is shocked to believe that all those bones and blood are from her son.
Oh, no! My son is dead!
Everything goes as they expect, which is a little disturbing but functional for them, and the pig's body is buried as if it were Butters, leaving his mother in deep sadness.
Oh, Butters! No! Don't put him down there! Don't put him down there!
Come on, Linda. It's not like you haven't tried to kill him a couple of times yourself. Don't be shameless. Back at school, the second phase of the plan is set in motion, and Butters arrives at the classroom dressed as a girl and with his new identity as Margarine.
Oh, hello.
The girls at school think you dress weird, but considering that many of them didn't even know who Butters was, well, it's possible that's the reason they don't suspect anything about the infiltration.
Dude, they totally think he's a girl.
This is how they get Butters, with his new identity as Margarine, to be invited to Heidi's sleepover, even though the invitation has Cartman's signature written all over it.
She said Margarine is having a really hard time being in a new school. Her mom asked me personally if we could have Margarine over. And besides, her mother told me that she works as a state official and that I should respect her authority.
Things aren't going so well at the Stotch house, and Steven ends up being visited by a mysterious farmer who, in simple words, tells him not to revive Butters at the Indian burial ground, giving him very specific instructions on how to bring him back to life again. It would be a problem.
Don't bury your son's body at the Indian burial ground, Stotch. The one that's right up over there behind the Anderson's barn. Sometimes, Dad is better.
I guess thanks for the information that I had no idea about 20 minutes ago, and with which I will of course do the opposite of what was suggested. You are a great old farmer. The sleepover is about to begin, and the boys lead Butters to the door and give him their final instructions.
Now look, Butters, when the girls bring out the future-telling device, pay attention to how it works. Once you know how to operate it, just grab it and get the hell out of there.
Thus begins the third phase of the plan, and Butters infiltrates Heidi's party, where her muscular father leaves a warning that the only thing worse than drugs is having a boy nearby, and if he finds one, he will make him suffer severely. The sleepover begins, and after several attempts by Butters to make them read their future with the paper fortune teller, they end up doing what people really do at a sleepover, criticizing each other.
Yeah, I can tell you your future, Margarine. You're going to live alone your entire life because you're a nerdy, dorky geek.
Ow, that hurt. Meanwhile, Butters' father digs up the pig's corpse to take it to the Indian cemetery, probably to revive it and punish it again. That's right, Steven. Your fake tears don't move me. At the sleepover, Butters locks himself in the bathroom to cry because of the girls' insults, who finally realize that they have been very rude to Margarine.
Margarine, you just have a different look, that's all. We need to help you bring out your inner beauty.
The girls apologize to Butters and end up giving him a makeover and dancing together to Justin Timberlake. Outside, the boys learn that Butters has dropped the whole plan and is actually having a great time. Cartman calls again, pretending to be Marjorie's mom, and reminds her why he's there.
I'm there to have fun, you black asshole! You're supposed to be getting the future-telling device!
Butters returns to the sleepover, and the girls finally want to play with the paper fortune teller. So Butters asks to borrow it, and it is just then that his father sees the boys through the window spying inside.
Aha! I knew it! Boys at the slumber party!
Butters panics thinking they are talking about him, and decides to flee the party.
Stand back! I had a great time tonight, but I gotta do what I was sent here to do.
Honestly, after the horrible comments about his looks, the girls had actually embraced Butters' essence. Too bad, it was all part of an absurd and elaborate plan to take a piece of paper from them. The boys are shocked by the device, but Butters tells them it's only bringing trouble, just before running off to tell his parents he's not dead. At the Stotch house, Steven reveals to Linda his ritual at the Indian cemetery, and just then Butters, whom they believe to be dead, knocks on the door.
Keep the door locked.
His parents won't let Butters in, and when he finally finds a way in, he terrifies them into thinking he was brought back from the dead by the ritual.
Oh God, it's terrible! What have I done?
Ultimately, all of Butters' efforts were in vain, because when he was about to use the device, which is nothing more than a piece of wallpaper, the boys discovered that the best thing to do was to simply destroy it.
Look at what this thing is doing to us! Butters was trying to tell me something outside the house, that this device is nothing but trouble. I think I know what he meant now.
And it all ends with a big explosion from Kenny. However, our most innocent character, just as I predicted, was revived only to be unfairly punished once again.
Sorry, son, but you're a demon spawn now. You're an abomination.
And as if the chains and shackles aren't enough, his very unbalanced parents try to feed him to a home decorator.
Come on, don't watch it feed.
I wouldn't want to be in Butters' shoes for a whole day, not even a second, I swear. And for the final episode, we have the time when Butters finally went from being a victim to answering to his victimizers. The boys are gathered in the cafeteria, and by the time Butters arrives, Stan immediately notices that he has a black eye.
Dude, did a bully take your lunch money again?
Stan insists that Butters should tell a teacher or send an anonymous letter, but Butters refuses either option.
Look, Butters, why don't you just talk to your family about it? You said your grandma's visiting this week. Why don't you try talking to her?
Oh, Stan, your intentions are good, but not enough to help Butters, since his bully is none other than his own grandmother. You didn't see that coming, huh?
Huh? You think you're tough, huh?
Another unfair punishment that life, or rather the writers, prepared for poor Butters? What a surprise. Grammy continues to bother him and ask for money even though he already gave her everything, and she continues bothering him until Linda and Steven return.
Oh, there's the tea. Tea for me, how lucky.
Even if Butters were to accuse his very mean grandmother to his parents, they would just punish him or send him to the basement. So it's not that far-fetched for Butters to keep quiet. At school, an anonymous student sends a letter to an anti-bullying association, and its founder, Bully Buckers, arrives to take matters into his own hands at South Park Elementary. However, as ironic as this may sound, Bucky Bailey, who fights against bullying in schools, is actually a bully himself.
You may only have an internet degree, but why don't you start acting like you're a school counselor and not an uninformed, backwards little dork, okay?
It seems that in the bullying chain, today you are bullied, and tomorrow, you are the bully. Mr. Mackey announces that there will be an assembly to stop bullying at school, while holding back tears having been bullied. At that moment, Butters receives the bad news that his grandmother is looking for him, and when he meets her in the bathroom, he is harassed for answers.
I heard somebody brought in an anti-bully counselor. Thought I wouldn't find out, you little narc?
Things don't seem to be getting any better for little Butters, and he's only saved when Mr. Alder accidentally walks into the bathroom. But once again, Grammy pretends to be a poor, harmless old lady. One of the worst villains in the series, if you ask me. Bucky Bailey makes his anti-bullying speech, and it takes a, well, pretty dark turn.
Do they say nice pants, why do you wear them up to your tits?
No. After making everyone uncomfortable, Bucky suggests that the school should make an anti-bullying video, and Stan ends up offering to take charge, which ends up earning him recognition from everyone.
Good for you, Stan. He's cool.
Stan's video is a huge hit, and I must admit that it has a very catchy rhythm.
Bullying isn't cool, bullying is lame, bullying is ugly and has a stupid name. For a healthy world, bullying's unfit, and I think I know what we should do to it, do to it.
The problem arises when it is the turn of the protagonist of the video, who is none other than Butters.
Can I not do this, please? I don't want to do this.
Stan gets upset, and it seems like he stopped caring about the cause a long time ago and is only doing it for the recognition. Kyle notices this and tells him so.
Don't act for me, Stan. Really. Because every minute I'm watching this video become less about awareness and more about you.
Just as Butters predicted, his participation in the video only made things worse for him, as while he is having a family dinner with his parents, his grandmother is constantly bothering him with her fork.
Nothing, Dad. Just a little gassy.
Oh, well, don't fart on Grandma. She's trying to enjoy her ham.
At that moment, Stan arrives to tell him about the success of the video and that it is going to be bought by Hollywood. The problem is that he tells him this right in front of his bully.
Oh, an anti-bullying video? How adorable.
The more Stan reaffirms that Butters is the star who inspired the project, the more poor Butters suffers. That's fame. No pain, no gain, I guess. After an awkward harassment in the bathroom, which of course is the bully's favorite place, by Bucky Bailey to Stan, the latter claims that the rights to the video belong to his company because it was his idea, and pressures him to the point of making him cry.
No, go ahead, cry. Let me see you. Let me see you cry.
At home, Butters decides it's time to confront his bully, so he takes his alter ego Professor Chaos to his grandmother's room, but ends up meeting something worse than his grandmother. His grandmother in a costume wearing underwear.
I got inspired when I came across your gay little costume in your closet.
His attempt to defend himself fails, and he ends up being attacked by his grandmother's gum, a merciless end. The next day, Bailey gets a taste of his own bully medicine when the president of the company that is going to buy the video confronts him and makes him cry.
Oh, you gonna cry? Oh, don't cry, it'll look bad with your widow Captain Kangaroo haircut.
The video premiere is approaching, and Kyle makes one last attempt to make Stan understand that his video is doing nothing to help Butters' true cause.
Do you really think that this is good for Butters? To have his face put all over signs as the poster child for bullying?
Butters is totally fine with it, dude.
As usual, Kyle is also right this time, and Butters' social pressure increases as he sees himself as a victim of bully everywhere, which ends up making him explode with Dr. Oz's questions on television.
Come on, this is for everyone who's been a victim. What do you want to say to bullies all across America? Go ahead, right now, say it.
Stop trying to make me say things I don't want to on your TV show.
Clearly, everyone who wanted to help Butters in the episode has only been following selfish feelings, and that is why when Dr. Oz continues with his anti-bullying speech, even when Butters asked him to stop, he attacks him.
Don't you care? You better care!
It's always nice to see true justice. Back as a renewed Butters, he goes to his grandmother's room while she is sleeping, gives her a rather peculiar speech about how good it felt to stand up for herself, as well as applying another type of bullying on her, not the physical one, but the psychological style.
Someday pretty soon. And when you're laying in that hospital bed, with tubes up your nose, and that little pain under your butt to pee in, I'll come visit you. I'll come just to show you that I'm still alive and I'm still happy. And you'll die, being nothing but you.
I didn't want to say it, but I will say it. How good it feels to have gotten what she deserved. Despite the unfair things Butters has been through, we love him and hope that one day he gets revenge on everyone. I mean, continue being the adorable Butters that we all love. After all, everyone knows it's Butters.